So let's start off with the housekeeping rules. As you guys all know, try not to multitask, guys. You've invested into this community. I want to make sure that you get every piece of information you can that can change your business, change your life personally, professionally, but you got to be locked in, right? So try not to multitask. Handle those emails or the social media on after the call. I want you guys to get everything out of this that you possibly can. Also, make sure you're taking notes. Remember, don't get overwhelmed. We're going to give you the recording of this call, but remember, try and come into every call that you're on. What is it that I'm going to take and apply and implement to my business? Just find that one thing. Write down your notes. That's fine. And then maybe next week you add on something else. But if you guys get into overwhelm with all these notes, you're not going to execute anything, right? So what is that one thing that I'm going to take from this and start implementing tomorrow and then stack on to that the next week? And then lastly, guys, make sure share these calls. Share this with your network. And most importantly, when we have a guest that's taking time out of their day to pour into us, make sure we return the favor for them, share their company, connect with them, guys, because like I said, guys, I don't just bring on anybody, right? These are people that run very big companies, very successful, and it's a very big opportunity for them to agree to take an hour or an hour and a half out of their time to do this. So please, let's make sure we return the favor, and let's get into it now. So I shared, if you guys paid attention to the Facebook group yesterday, the bio of my friend Derek. And if you read through it, I mean, there's really nothing that this man hasn't done in the business world. But what I will say, outside of the 17,000 awards that he's got nationally, globally, in business, all that stuff, was the biggest thing. One of the most exciting things that I want to bring him on is because he's such a quality human being. And for everything that he has done, all the companies that he's built, that he sold. I mean, he is just the example of what to be as a successful entrepreneur and a leader. So I met Derek a few years ago at a mastermind in New York. And, ever since then, we just stayed connected, and I followed his journey, and a portion of it, a very small portion of it, to say the least. But, he built a company, which he's going to go into, called Scrimmage. So when I first connected with him, that was the first company that I saw him involved with. And I just seen him relentlessly every day on podcasts, doing interviews, trying to bring awareness and growing this company. And then within that journey, I then saw that he exited that company, which he'll explain to you what he did. So I don't know if it's fully exited, he'll go into that. But then he took over another company, a CEO called LifeGuides, which he's going to share with you guys what that has done. But, like I said, guys, I mean, his track record is just unbelievable. He's a part of the Arete Syndicate, as one of the original members. So for those of you that follow Andy Frisella and Ed Milet, when they did their very first event, I don't know, maybe there was Derek, 20, 30 or 40 people? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's about 40, 50.
Yeah, he was one of the original 40, 50 people of Arete Syndicate, which is now close to 2,000 people. And that's what it's going to be like for the Harvest. So for those of you that were the founding 50, now we're at 120. He was one of those original guys that were in the circle and still in the circle and have the respect of Ed Milet and the people like Andy Frisella. So with that being said, Derek, I can go on and on about everything you've done, what you mean to me, the great person that you are, but I just wanted to open the floor up to you. And if you kind of want to just start with kind of sharing, a little bit of your journey and about Scrimmage, and then we'll go into LifeGuides, and I'll tee up with some good questions.
Perfect. Well, first off, thanks, Devin, for that introduction. I truly am humbled. And to your point, I feel like I'm just getting started on my journey of entrepreneurship still, even where I am in this process. And that's one of the key aspects. I just want to acknowledge everyone on this call that you're all investing in your own growth, your own development, your own potential. And that is a key part of the journey of entrepreneurship and business. The job is never finished. There's always another level. There's always an opportunity to improve. And I'm a student and a committed ambassador of that, for lack of a better term. So Devin said a lot of nice things, and I have had some amazing experiences in building companies, investing in companies, and supporting entrepreneurs and supporting businesses. And it's allowed me the opportunity to meet some amazing people, such as all of you on the call today. And I'm really appreciative of you sharing your time and your energy to build companies, to build businesses, to impact people's lives, to create jobs, to support families, to contribute to the community, to contribute to society. That's ultimately what we're here to do. It's the mission that drives me personally. And I believe that if you're involved with this group, it's the mission that drives you and people that we're all collectively associating with. And I think that's something I'll share a little bit about today, is just the role of the individual and the role of the collective in business and what that means. But, to Devin's point, Scrimmage was a company that I had been involved since the early days in the founding. The concept was mobile learning, mobile education. So we built a platform that delivered educational and training content via mobile devices 10 years ago, before that was a key concept. And so we gamified that experience. We have little quizzes and different games to help people learn. And we really focused heavily on the healthcare industry, supporting a lot of the pharmaceutical, biotech, med device companies, payers, providers, hospitals in the world that you know. And we've also worked outside that space as well, working with companies like Comcast and Merrill Lynch and things like that. So for different perspectives, that was the first company, but really it was focused heavily in the healthcare space. And we built that company internationally. As Devin mentioned, we won several awards, about 35 of them in different industries, for innovation, for growth, the Inc. 5000 several times. And just overall, the biggest honor of that was just to build and lead the team that was able to go on that journey. And we scaled that internationally. We had an office in London. We had companies all over the world and members used all over the world in those companies. And so I had the chance to really travel and build that business over the course of a decade. And working with other companies kind of prior to that in the medical publishing, education, training space, really building up my background in sales, marketing, general management, working with entrepreneur-run companies, and then spinning off to start my own businesses, which kind of led into a bunch of different companies. I'm happy to share about that journey, because that was forged out of some things that didn't go my way, and that I was able to turn that into the platform that I built. And then, as Devin mentioned, the company I lead today is called LifeGuides. I'm the president and CEO of LifeGuides. We're a public benefit corporation, and that really was a calling, for lack of a better term, and I'll share more about that as well. And really why I chose to invest and why I chose to exit Scrimmage. I sold that company to a firm out of Toronto called Acto, which I've stayed involved with them as an advisor to their team and still have a role in kind of behind the scenes, playing a more of an advisor supportive role, but allows me to go out and build my next big platform, which I think is going to be even bigger. And so to provide some context, when I was about, all of it kind of happened around the same time, about 30 years old. I had been flirting with the concept of going into entrepreneurship for some time after working with different entrepreneur-owned companies. And I had been at an event around that same time. I was on some different nonprofit organizations and building up these different companies. And I was actually working on buying with some partners the company I was working with at the time. And being inexperienced, I didn't know. And that deal went a little bit sideways. So I learned a lot of information along the way. And then ultimately I found myself the next day starting kind of forced into entrepreneurship. I was kind of flirting with it and I jumped off the deep end, right? And so what happened at that point is I started a few different companies all at the same time. And one of them, which was the concept of Scrimmage, because I had met my then partner at the time. And we kind of really scaled and bootstrapped that concept, supporting the healthcare industry. Over time, we just continued to build the team, build the client base, and parlay that into an experience. But it was all about education. The reason why that's so relevant is all about education, it's all about personal growth. It was all about helping people live their best careers or be the best in their careers, help them earn more, help them learn more, help them be the best that they could be in that context. And at that same event where that happened, as I was talking about, where I met Peter Diamandis, who's been a key contributor to my entrepreneurial journey, he shared this idea to me, which is, because at the time I was very financially motivated. If you want to be a billionaire, help a billion people, right? That was the concept. And it was in that moment that the context of business shifted for me from, hey, I already help people. That's what I do in my day-to-day life, is helping contribute to people's lives. How can I do it at a level of scale that a billion people's lives could be influenced? And so education was kind of the first category that I was in, that I saw as what led me down the Scrimmage path. I was to say, hey, mobile devices are something that's connecting all of us. Education is something that allows people to change their perspective, change their potential in life, and it's something that's obviously foundational in developed societies and allows us to grow. And then, a few years later, at a different event where I became part of an entrepreneurship community called Abundance 360 that Peter organized, I met my now partners, Mark Donahue from LifeGuides, who I invested in as one of the first angels, as well as Will Bunker, who was the founder of Match.com, which I think probably many of you know that company. And so essentially, the concept took it even a step further. And, Mark and Will shared the story that they had in common, which was they were both parents of loved ones who had dementia. And they were both gentlemen of means, And they were confronted with the challenge of, I don't know what to do. I need to learn all this really quickly. I have to become an expert in the healthcare industry. I need to understand how to provide caregiving support. I need to, deal with the emotional stresses of that. And so I felt in that moment, literally the same way I felt about starting Scrimmage as how I felt about LifeGuides, in the sense that it felt literally like it was pulling me to it, to be the first investor. And the idea was we could use technology to connect people for peer-to-peer support and mentorship. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, obviously mentorship, community, and growth is a key value that you all have and are participating in. And so at that point, I just saw this opportunity that Alzheimer's dementia caregiving was one topic, one dimension of life experience of thousands of unique topics and experiences that ultimately connect people. So it's more than just connecting people for their business or for mentorship in that context, but really about how do you connect with people in their lives? How do you influence their families? How do you influence communities? And that was what was the next stage beyond Scrimmage. It was not just about career growth, but it was about helping people literally change their trajectory of their families' lives, their communities, and be in a level of community and using the technology and the capabilities that we have. And so that was kind of what we got to now. So now, I stepped in a couple of years ago to the CEO role. I moved from the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey originally. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where the headquarters was. This was all in, kind of happening in December, January of 2019, 2020. Devin knows that well. So I get out to Phoenix with my young children. I'm a few months behind Devin. I just had my second son a couple of months ago. I've got a 2-year-old son and now soon to be 4-year-old daughter. And so I moved my 2 kids, my wife, across the country to get set into this role. We're about to, go through this explosive commercialization effort because I was on the board for several years as we were building out the technology, building out the model. And then I was able to come into this company and help commercialize it. And as we all know, in February, March of 2020, the pandemic started and the entire world shifted. And we were all confronted with a life challenge or life experience that we're all sharing still 2 years later, and prolonged uncertainty, prolonged need to connect, prolonged need to understand, prolonged need to educate and upscale ourselves, and to have different perspectives, and to have the ability to find new ways, new meanings, new perspectives on our life, and to share that with others. And so in many ways, the pandemic has been a gift in that regard, and I believe will continue to be, in the sense that, yes, it's been incredibly challenging for business owners. It's been incredibly challenging for families. It's been something that has confronted people's stress and mental health. But it's also, as you all know, a massive opportunity to innovate, to adapt, to prove your resilience, to change your business model, to become more strong and more anti-fragile in developing ways for the future, and ultimately to serve people better, more effectively, and to ultimately take care of yourself, to be healthier, wealthier, wiser, and to share that fortune with others. And I believe that's what we're here to do. So that's a little about my entrepreneurial journey. Happy to go into more of that if it's helpful at the end, because I do believe that one of the things in business is a lot of the lessons in business are transferable to any industry, to any type of company, because at the core, what I'm going to talk about today as a concept is about leadership, and specifically about servant leadership, because you probably hear in my talk some of the things I've been sharing about the true example to pour into others, to put other people's needs above or at par with your own. This concept that your needs are my needs, not in the codependent sense, but in the sense that you're investing and caring about someone so much that changing their life is as important as changing yours. And that is a precondition, in my opinion, for creating win-win partnerships, win-win-win relationships, win-win-win abundance, which I believe is the format of the world of business and life that we're moving into. I believe that we're on the verge of a quantum shift, and entrepreneurs and business owners have the opportunity to play a contributory role and a creator role in that. And it's an important opportunity that I don't take lightly. I don't think anyone on this call should either. So back to servant leadership for a second. What does that mean ultimately? And why is that important to me? And why is that important to all of you? It really does go back to, if you think about capitalism, and I am a capitalist, I believe that capitalism is the vehicle to create change. It's the path to create innovation. It's the path to create wealth. It's the chance to create opportunities for the less fortunate. But conscious capitalism is the need to be a steward, to take care of those in your charge, to look out for your communities. When you're thinking about your stakeholders, it's not just about shareholder growth. It's not just about becoming wealthy. It's about investing in everyone's wealth. And that's not just financial, but it's in their health, it's in their well-being, it's in their morals, it's in their ethics, it's in their families. It's creating a better future. And so when I talk about those elements, it's about being of service to that greater cause. And we're right now in a stage of entrepreneurship where everyone's about the individualism. And there's an important role for individual growth and personal growth, but we cannot lose sight of the fact that we're part of the collective. And if you create other winners and create other opportunities, which I know you're doing in this group, you will also benefit, and we will all benefit from that. So when I go back to stakeholder capitalism, I'm not thinking in the sense of I need to beat my competition. I'm thinking about the fact that my competitors' families are actually benefiting from our being successful, right? So it changes the entire paradigm in that model, because you, by competing and being at your best, you're challenging other people to be at their best. You're challenging them to innovate. You're asking for a level of abundance and growth that people can step and rise into. It's not a zero-sum game. This is a positive multiplying effect that we're about to have. And this goes back to the role that technology plays. 30 years ago, on these mobile phones that we have more computing power, each of us on our phones, than the president of the United States had at that time, right? That's a fact. We have more, and that's only going to increase over the next decade. The innovation that we'll see in healthcare, and I'll just talk about this for a second. It doesn't matter where you are around vaccines or health. Ultimately, the fact that a vaccine was developed in a year is light years ahead of any speed of development anything can happen. It's going to get faster and faster regarding any type of innovation, treatments, cures. And it's not just in healthcare. It's in every industry. The way that you look at your business, the way that you can use technology, you can make massive quantifiable leaps, multiplication type of leaps in your business. The role of decentralized finance is happening right now. The role in the real estate industry, the role in construction manufacturing. I mean, the ability to bring down the cost of things through 3D printing, through other autonomous labor and other different pieces, so that humans can be better at what humans do, which is connecting each other, loving each other, serving each other, understanding each other. That's what makes us uniquely human. That's what is our role in business. So I know I'm very passionate about that. So back to servant leadership again. What is it? Aside from the technology, it comes back to people. And in your role in building your companies and in leading your businesses, what matters to your people? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Obviously, you should hopefully know and examine what matters to you. That's an important part too, to be an effective leader. But you need to examine what matters to your people and how does that align with the mission of the company that you're all creating together, or the mission of whatever you're doing together. So you may have heard of these concepts of the 6 human needs. Devin mentions, Ed talks about them, Tony talks about them. They both claim credit for the idea, but the 6 human needs of where do people fit in as these kind of core concepts of the need for certainty, right? So I'll go through each of in order. It's been a really uncertain time. It's been a really tumultuous time. People want to feel safe. They want to feel stable. People's lives have been uprooted. As a leader, if someone on your team has a need for certainty, how do you help them understand the way that working with your company, the way that working with you creates and supports that need? The reason why I say this is because it's all in reciprocity. By you meeting their needs, by meeting your people's needs, again, your needs are my needs, they will then in turn create a greater level of trust, a greater level of commitment, and a greater level of production for you in the partnership. So that's the certainty piece. The other side is variety. People want to learn new skills. They want to experience different things. We've been living a sense over the last 2 years of doing the same thing day in, day out, right? People want to change that. So you need to find a way to nurture the need for variety, the need for people to have different perspectives, learning new roles potentially in a company, moving them around, getting into new product lines, evaluating that, right? That's one example. And it's also outside of the business world, right? This is the opportunity now, the big shift in my opinion, and obviously I'll talk more about LifeGuides, is this concept that work and life, and this was one of the key concepts before this happened, are being very much blurred. You no longer can look at work as work and life as life. Work and life are integrated, and I don't think that's ever going to go back again. We are literally sitting in each other's living rooms, home offices, bedrooms, warehouses. It doesn't matter where you are. We can connect with each other around the world, any time zone, and people can set their time windows, their productivity windows, their contribution, and we have tools that we can measure that. So that's speaking about variety. The other thing is about significance. Some people have a need, they want to be recognized. They want to feel special. They want to feel that they matter in the context of your business. Help them understand that you care about them in that way, so that they in turn are going to contribute and make your company significant. Love and connection. I personally think this is a big one. It's a big need of mine, and a big need for what I focus on is helping people feel loved, helping them, because I believe that part of the miss right now in capitalism is that people see money as the end and not a means. And ultimately, love, if people feel more love, money becomes a tool. Money becomes a flow through. Your business productivity, your success becomes a vehicle to share more love, right? And to receive more love. And I do think that's foundational, and that's a really important one. Growth, and the same thing. Another one that's big and is important, and I know everyone here, is around growth. You want to become the best version of yourself. You want to develop your skills. Your people want to become the best potential they can. They want to grow their lives, their careers, their finances, everything. So you want to pour into them. You want to invest in their education development. You want to train them. You want to make them an asset that they are so good that they don't want to leave your company because you've invested so much, but they're also going to go anywhere they want to because their skills are that good. And that's that relationship, that shift. And the last thing is contribution. Who do you want to serve? Who do your people want to give back to? Who do you want to make causes beyond yourself? This goes back to, serving and creating a cause, pouring back in the community, investing in causes, both proactively and reactively. And how do you tap into that individually and as a collective? So I shared that because that for me has been a key lesson in my own leadership journey, but also in how people interact with each other. And it's really important to understand those dimensions and to look at people to understand what motivates them. What do they need, right? Because it's beyond just a motivation. It's literally a core need that you can tap into, not in an exploitive way, but literally to create more rapport, more trust, more innovation, more opportunity, and ultimately it's going to explode your business. So I believe that. So what does that come back to as well? It's about creating genuine trust. It's about creating genuine relationships, right? It's about truly giving with the intention that you're helping someone else's life. The core concept, because servant leadership is a kind of a moral philosophy as much as a business philosophy, is you want the people in your care, in your companies, to be healthy. You want them to be wise. You want them to be financially abundant. You want their families to succeed. You want them to be autonomous. You want them to be free. That's a key part. They are able, because they are more developed, more actualized as people, you will have a more fully expressed, more actualized, more successful, more high vibrational company. And that's what servant leadership does. It's counterintuitive, but by you prioritizing the needs of the collective, the others, your needs simultaneously will be served because you receive feedback and the abundance will flow through. So that's a concept which I know many of you are familiar with, but I think it's really important. So I want to transition back to LifeGuides for a second, just because it's relevant. It kind of shares a bit more about what I'm doing with my day-to-day and why it's important. As you can imagine with LifeGuides, because this is a two-sided marketplace, the idea is that, I'll give you a corollary in the commodity space. Think of Airbnb. Everyone knows Airbnb. It changed the game of real estate and vacations and so forth. If you want to go on an amazing vacation, you can pick a house in Northern California and go to wine country. You can stay in a vineyard in a 2-bed, 2-bath, bring your family out there and do some amazing tours. And you can do that and you can have access to that property. Same thing, if you want to go rent an apartment in New York City and go there for the weekend, you can do that. Those are opportunities that are available in the context of experiences, of experiencing something that will enrich your life. This is taking a step further. The most underutilized asset in my experience, or underseen asset that we all have, is our own unique life experiences. I would imagine that every single person in this call has had something that makes you unique, or you view as uniquely yours, that's defined your character or your identity. Whether it be, like your situation, my situation, losing my job after trying to structure a deal and then moving into starting a bunch of companies, pushed me into entrepreneurship. That's an example. But it could be something about your personal life, caring for aging parents, having a premature child, having an illness in your family, having to manage that, going through a relationship change, like a divorce. Those are all experiences. And on the positive side, just becoming a parent, just getting more healthy, developing new skills, learning, sharing your gifts, sharing your lessons. We all have that. And so the concept is that everyone can be a guide in some sense. Everyone here has the opportunity to be a mentor if you develop your skills enough. You can translate your own story into being a guide. And the key concept is that within companies right now, back to work and life being blended, is that people need support in those different dimensions. That we show up to work, but the things that we're thinking about, I got to call my health insurance, I got to call my kids' daycare, I got to manage that situation, at home. That's impeding on people's productivity. So what can we as leaders and what can you as leaders do to lighten that load, to give people support, to give them a guide, right? And so these guides from this population of millions of guides that we're going to have worldwide can essentially be a guide just for you. So you can say, hey, I want support in this particular area. You go into the technology, you fill in your profile, and the technology will say, here's a few guides that match with your experience request and your need. And you can book through our platform a session to talk with those guides right then and there. And it could be a one-time interaction, or it can be an ongoing relationship, much as you would see a regular counselor. And so the idea is it's changing the entire paradigm around emotional mental health, around personal growth, around coaching, around resourcefulness, around personalization of resources to deal with it. And that's what LifeGuides is doing. And this is a ubiquitous human need that addresses all 6 of those different things I talked to. And it's about addressing the ability for elevating, emerging markets in the third world, and especially for dealing with the stresses and the different elements that we experience in a developed world like the United States. We have psychic stress. We have first world problems, literally, right? And so part of this is addressing that so that we can then share our wealth, our innovation, our growth with the emerging markets so that we can create a more abundant, more just, more caring world for all people, right? That's what LifeGuides is ultimately doing. Our mission is to reduce suffering and help 1 billion people thrive in the next 15 years. 1 billion people, right? And for me, and it's no longer about the money. Like I've been successful. I understand where you get to a point, and David Meltzer, I know you, Devin, you probably had David on here, talks about a world of more than enough. I've reached that point. I understand what that's like, right? And everyone has the opportunity to get to that point. And it's as much a mental game as it is a financial game. You have the ability to determine when you've gotten to that point of more than enough. And I know for personally, if your basic needs are met, the ability to put a safe home over your family, the ability to feed your family, the ability to go about in the community freely, to help other people. If those needs are met, you're already wealthier than 95% of the world's population. That's a fact, right? And so we are of a really unique point of view that we're going and chasing the next level of our potential. We want to be the 1%. We want to be the 1% of the 1%. We want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's, and growing. It's not about pushing, it's about growing so that it can be shared with other people, right? And then I'll come back to this other point, which is about humility, right? The idea that I'm sharing this with you, and I believe from my experience that these things are true. I also believe I don't know much. I'm still really, really early on in my journey as a leader, as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a human being. I mean, arguably, I still have 65, 70 years of life left, right? I mean, like, we're going to live to be 120 years old potentially with the innovations that are coming down the line, right? So that's a possibility. So the world, the entire world is shifting in terms of what is possible. And, some of the lessons that I would share just for each of you on your entrepreneurial journey or leadership journey is about having perspective, the perspective of what you think you know, what you do know, and what you don't know, and what you don't even know you don't know, right? That's an important part about perspective because it changes everything. And having curiosity about what that is, curiosity of who you want to be, who you want to be with, who you want to learn with, who you want to learn from, and from a genuine place that our differences is what makes life interesting. Don't cancel someone because they don't think like you. Seek them out to know them better, understand them better, love them better. That's the misnomer that everyone has to think the same way. We should be thinking differently. It's how we grow, it's how we develop, it's how we learn. I believe that, not to get too woo-woo, but I believe that in some way we're here to experience consciousness. We are experiencing God's consciousness through our own existence, right? And so our responsibility is to create love, to create more forgiveness, to create more openness, to create more service. And all the stuff that we're experiencing in the 3D world, that's just tools. It's just the method by which we're learning. We're here to learn, and we're here to master ourselves and to help others to master whatever it is in their journey that they're learning. So that's a couple of things around servant leadership and around our responsibility as leaders to create cultures of caring, cultures of community, cultures of service, cultures of others, right? Putting others first above ourselves, and in turn ourselves benefit and growing through that way. So that's a couple of things on that front. I'm happy to talk more about how that translates into scaling companies, because there are a lot of elements beyond just psychological and the connection elements that is, but when you translate that into the hard part, because I mean, this is the other misnomer, the dichotomy of this, right? Is and I saw the quote, right? Run to the wall. Yeah, I want to run to the wall most days too, right? You want to go out there and you want to kick butt. You want to dominate your goals. You want to win. You want to figure out the answers. You want to bring that masculine. But that what's considered as that feminine, that compassionate, that empathy, the seeking to understand, the putting yourself in that person, feeling someone's emotions, that is equally important, right? And bringing those intelligence together and infusing them is the really challenging part of being a great leader, right? That's the opportunity, is that if you're too heavy in one or the other, you're not fully balanced. And so cultivating the skills and cultivating, or I should say, they're all skills, cultivating the skills of transactional business and cultivating the skills of human connectedness, those are complementary elements, right? And there's no gender associated. I just use that to try to illustrate it because we have a primary, but ultimately it's about connecting as human beings, and it's about connecting in our businesses and bringing that together. And the way that we do that is through our sharing of experience, sharing of understanding, and getting to know each other on a deep level. And I believe we need to do more of that. And so how do you do that in your company? You need to have people understand the mission. What is the mission? What are the values? How do you help people examine their values and the mission? And does that align with what they want to do? You're giving people an invitation. You're inviting them to be part of the mission so that you can invest in them, so they invest back in you. That's the deal that is being made in an abundant economy. That's really what's happening, in my belief, right? Then it's about, okay, how do we get the right people in the organization? How do we give them clarity? Because it goes back to those values. How do we help them have certainty on how they fit in the business? How do we build processes that help us get more efficient, more effective, and to not get caught up in kind of the emotional stuff, the emotional baggage, so we can communicate emotionally more clearly? That's another big part. Communication. You can never have enough. Everybody has different lenses, different filters. I hope that my message right now is getting clearly, but I'm sure some of you would say, this seems a little off. I need to get some information on this. Happy to do that. Happy to share more with you to correct a point of view or to go deeper. I would love that. If you disagree with me, I would love that too. Let's talk about it, because that allows us to both get better, to both learn, and to both improve on how we lead and build our companies. The last thing I'll just share about scaling companies is about creating a culture of learning, creating a culture of autonomy. Allow for people to make mistakes, so long as that they're not doing it intentionally, right? It's important that we're all going to learn. I mean, Devin, you talked about your little son and my little son. We all learned how to walk by falling on our faces time and time again. And yet we all figured it out. Some people figure it out after a week. Some people figure it out after a few months. But we all figure it out in time. And so it goes back to, how do you understand, how can you get people there faster? Because at the end of the day, there's a child still in all of us, right? And this goes back to love, right? There's a child in every single one of these adults. And so it's important for us to connect with that version of the people on your team, as well as the fully developed, fully actualized version. Because by healing and supporting the child, you actually create a healthier, more productive adult. And that allows us to then recreate a healthier, productive society. So this is a little bit more than business. Happy to go into that. But I think it's a really important element. And I think business is just a representation of the work that we're really doing, right? It just gives us a way to measure the work that we're doing. It allows us to see, are we on track or off track in developing our skills as a human being and what we're here to do, and to make a better, more just, more caring world. So that's my longer than expected rant. It's about 30 minutes, more than I usually talk. I'm glad this was recorded, because I'm actually feeling on fire right now, Devin. So hopefully you share this with me, and happy to just open up the conversation if that feels aligned.
So listen, I wanted to give you a breath, but I knew that you were just locked in and in your zone. So I'm just like, let me just let him go. Dude, I've never heard so much like valuable content in just 30 minutes than I just heard right there. And hopefully those of you listened, and it's like, as I coordinate this, right, I'm just like, man, he just said another thing. Man, he just said another. And it just keeps going. I'm like, I'm trying to write down what to elaborate on. But dude, just, please guys, like I said, this now more than ever, please take the notes, because in 10 minutes, you're going to learn probably 35 life lessons that you can take and implement, and probably save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars, a bunch of hires that didn't work out because you're not implementing what he's saying. But a few things I want to note here too, guys, is Derek a lot of this stuff is noted and meant to deploy into your own business, into your own organization. But I also want you to take the same mindset to your clients, right? And I have written down, or I maybe noted it up here, when, it's just like, what is your needs, right? Your needs are my needs, right? So that is one. Most people don't operate like that in their own business with their employees. But two, imagine if you operated like that with your clients, like, and truly meant it, and in every way possible, not just like, oh, you want a red shirt, here goes a red shirt. Like, what is that goal you're trying to accomplish? When are you trying to do that? Like, what is important to you throughout this whole transaction? So I wanted to make sure that you guys look at this in both sides, not just your company and your organization and your employees, but look at this too when you handle your clients. Because my goodness, man, I just had so much stuff written down here, Derek, and I appreciate it. So there's a few things I have noted here because I followed your journey. And, the one thing that I wanted to let's see here. The one thing that I wanted you to elaborate on, right, is most people, most of you don't know that Derek, with LifeGuides, this company that he's now taken on, you started there as an advisory board member.
Yeah, I started as an investor, and then I joined the board. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So
Dev.
and again, I'm trying to obviously we've learned a ton of different stuff here, but there's some things too that I want you guys to know too. So Derek, how did that, what makes you identify what you want to invest in, right? And how did that all unfold? And then how did you know, what, this is a good decision? How do you identify if it's a good decision to actually take over a company and make sure it's not the next shiny object? Because guys, I highlight this all the time about the next shiny object. Derek is very intentional with everything that he does. He's very laser focused. So you can imagine that this was a big decision for him. So if you want to elaborate on that, Derek, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. So it's a really good question for multi reasons. So one is, I think everyone has a different lens by which they evaluate opportunities and and a different style or what I'll call intelligence by which they filter information or, kind of know the right thing. So I'll speak from my experience, and maybe this helps you, and I probably can translate it into helping you. So for me, when I make investments, generally, I have a really strong gut feeling on whether or not it's something I want to be involved in, or if it's something that maybe not now. Oftentimes when I have a no, quote unquote, it's not for me, right? It doesn't mean it's a no, it just means it's not for me. And so I will try to redirect opportunities to other people, because that's part of it too, back in my network, as I kind of keep an eye out, I've developed the skill of intention to connect dots, to say, hey, you know what? I think this might be something that so-and-so would like to learn more about. And so even if it's not for me, I will make a point to pass the opportunity along when I can. But to your question about, for me specifically, and with LifeGuides in particular, I literally felt like a physiological draw to it. Like it literally felt like my heart was opening up and it was part of my next path. Like I felt it calling me. And so for me, I typically look for that level of a magnetic pull to opportunities, even or a hint of it for me, what that kind of says, yeah, you should examine this further. Right. So, and I to your comment, Devin, I do have a strong level of intentionality that I don't typically make a quick decision. I check that data point where, like, okay, I felt that strong intuition on it. Now I'm going to do the diligence on it. I'm going to investigate it. I'm going to run through the numbers. I'm going to look at these different elements. I'm going to examine the business plan, and I'm going to see if that feeling still feels as strong in the context of the information that I'm examining. So for me, that's an important part. And I've made other investments in other companies, over the years. But typically I will have a strong feeling or a strong hit, like, yeah, this is a yes. And then I will either confirm that or say, for whatever reason, it's a not now or not for me or whatever it is. So that's my process. And again, I'm still early in that process. I'm a relatively early investor. I made, a dozen different angel investments in different companies over my career, which compared to a lot of people, that's not that many, right? So I'm still learning about that. And that's for companies specifically. You have a different aspect, for personal finance. I'm a big believer, and this goes back to, just discipline, is figure out, and this is a whole nother class, but figure out, what your financial kind of bottom line is, and then figure out the lifestyle that you want to live relative to your goals, and then be really consistent, right? So for me personally, I have small daily investments that are happening, daily savings numbers that are coming to my account, daily investments that are going into different pieces. So I have money that I'm looking at as just being very small, compounding over long periods of time. And then I look to make big things happen too with angel investments, or kind of what I would consider high risk stuff. And typically for me, when I make a bigger investment, it's I want to be involved in some way, right? So to your point, Devin, I want to have a board seat. I want to be an advisor. I want to see what's going on. I don't necessarily want to control, but I want to be helpful. I want to be involved, and I want to know where I can create more value to both de-risk it and potentially increase the likelihood that the investment will be successful. So.
And I just popped up in my head because I'm just trying to fast forward my mind to think of the questions that I had, because I was like, catching all this stuff that you were saying. Was one, when you were talking about people being connected, especially what COVID did, the Harvest actually was born literally about a year ago, right? So we're at 120 members, and this happened during COVID. So that was huge, to where, like, this connection that we were making. And then literally 7 months later, we actually had our first in-person, now we do monthly in-person events, and everybody was like, man, like it's felt like I've known you forever. Meanwhile, we've only known each other in these boxes. And the cool thing is it's personal development and business development coaching. So literally within these boxes, we've seen people literally shrink, like lose 70, 80 pounds, which has been
amazing.
Amazing. But I want to go a little bit deeper. Now, I don't want this to go over a lot of your head, guys, but I want to impact you the best way I possibly can. And sometimes it goes deeper than just a business decision. One thing I noticed, and if you can hear Derek's language, he talks about, his gut, his what he felt in his gut. And he talks about a lot of mindset stuff, intuition. Derek, I know you go very deep into your mindset, into manifestation, into the universe. Like you do, you're a thinker, man. And you go deep into like more than just the physical stuff about your body, into that mental game. Can you share some of the techniques or some of the practices that you do kind of to keep you focused and how like your mindset game, how you work on that helps translate into your business? Because I know you're a student of that and you're very good at it.
Thank you, Devin. I am a student of that and I'm always learning on that. And again, my approach some of the things, take what works for you and also look at what works for you. Everyone's style, everyone's needs are different, right? So for example, I know that, regular physical exercise is really good for me. I don't have to be a crazy in the gym, but I need just regular, consistent exercise is really important because it gets me moving. And when I'm in motion, I find that a lot of my more creative kind of insights or intuition kind of flows through more easily, right? So that's something that I've noticed a pattern that I kind of prime myself for that intuition by being physical in my body. Then I'm a morning person, right? I'm up early, I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm just naturally that way. And I usually use that time, especially now, I used to have more time, but when the kids were a little bit younger, now that my daughter's getting out of bed early, she's also a morning bird. So I'm up at 5 and I'll usually try to do a meditation at that window or I'll journal, right? Same thing. Before I get going in the day, I will use that window to access my subconscious, whatever's been processing, right? I've done it, during my time, as a matter of fact, when I lived in Philadelphia, I did a lot of manifestation meditations. Like I literally almost like chanting. Like I did stuff with Wayne Dyer. Like I didn't work with Wayne Dyer, but I did a lot of his stuff and different elements. But I've used meditation as a tool both for going inward as well as for expressing and creating and visualizing things that I want to accomplish. And again, everyone has a different approach for how they're able to bring ideas either forward or move towards them or create them. I believe that those are all gifts that people have or different skills that can be developed. But that's been an element for me, Devin. I've done different types of meditation. I find different times. For me personally, I find the morning is best just because in the evening I'm more tired. Although, what I've found recently is that that's another nice time to sit down, when the kids are in bed and have a fire going, for example, and journal, right? That's another point to kind of look back on the day or look back on what you want to accomplish. And obviously the other piece is just having a routine and a discipline of, and is your task that you want to accomplish, how you look at your priorities for the day. I'm extremely diligent on my calendar down to the minutes, and that includes every aspect. I've got family time built in there. I've got exercise. I've got, the taking care of my, of like eating, like literally like that level of detail is in the calendar at times, right? So like, depending on the day of the flow of the day, I mean, like I have a jam pack, and Devin knows this because he asked me a month ago to join. I said, give me the date, give me the time. Like I already have stuff booked out a month from now because I'm booking out with that level of discipline. It's just, and that way you're always in momentum, right? If you're with that level of intention, it's a lot harder to knock yourself out of momentum, even when the unexpected or, things come along. So
I love that. Always in momentum. Like when you're just consistently putting things on the calendar, it's like you're losing that momentum. All right. So I'm going to ask one more question because you guys are writing stuff down and have a lot of questions. And if sometimes people get shy, they don't want to ask questions, I still have a shit ton of questions that I want to ask that I know will be valuable to you guys. So the other thing that you did was, and I feel like this will be helpful to everybody, was you exited your company but you still remained on the board of the company, right? And I'm always about, I'm trying to, make sure everybody's coached on leverage, growing through people, so that, hey, when you eventually you have a well-oiled machine, maybe there's something else that you have a bigger calling for. And, it's like you can make that smooth transition. Now, you made that transition and you're still a part of that. Can you explain to people like how that happened, what that, like, how did you make that decision? Kind of like, how do you even like, is there like a mathematical equation, without getting too in detail about what you sold for, stuff like that, but like, just basic information on that stuff in case anybody has interest with that.
Yeah. So there's so many different paths we could go down on that front. Let me kind of start with your first question. So in terms of, this is actually a good point. So when you're thinking about exiting or selling or merging or acquiring businesses, it's important to think about what you want the after to be like, right? That a lot of times, and this is a pattern I've heard about, and unfortunately, because I was already on my next move, I didn't experience this, but I know I have friends who have. They sell their businesses, and then they're like, now what? Right? They're literally because most entrepreneurs are putting a decade or more into building these companies, and they get their big payout, right? And then they're like, okay, what? Like, I didn't feel as good as I thought I would feel, or what am I going to do with my money now? Or I'm bored already. It's been 2 months of sitting on the beach, and what do I do next? Like, that's a real challenge. Like, again, back to first world challenge. It's a real thing. It's a real identity and existential question that a lot of entrepreneurs have when they exit their company. So it's important to think through what you want with intention, what you want the next phase to be, or at least options of what that next phase might be, so that you can then bring those on early into the negotiation with the parties that you're looking at doing a transaction with, because that'll actually inform how serious or not you even go with certain parties, depending on how they want to have it. And then that goes back to something, and this is a process that I'm always learning about. Like, I'm a student of this, which is because you always feel like you're playing gamesmanship in that regard, right? You're trying to, some people, that's a hard way to do it until you're getting to know each other and you develop that real trust. People are always you always feel like you're negotiating, right? So you have to, it's that delicate balance of being very honest, very open, almost to the point where, and for me personally, I would rather err on the side. I'd rather get my heart broken or feel like I gave up too much than not do that, right? And feel like we're working on an inauthentic deal. So just tell people up front what you want or what you don't want, right? And that's hard to do, right? For anyone, for me too. Like, you have to examine yourself, right? This is where the self-examination is really hard. And it goes back to that your needs, your mind needs. Like, what do you want? What's important? Why are you doing this? What's the motivation? What would be amazing? What would you totally not like in the future? Like, think through that stuff's really, really important. And it will ultimately make what happens next feel like a success or neutral or like it was not a success, right? And so, and all of that's all relative anyway, because it's all information, it's all learning, right? That's what I need to keep in mind. But I think that's a really important part, and it's a hard part. And I think it's, from almost everyone I've talked to that has sold their businesses and bought businesses on both sides, the conversation about what does the founder want next and creating the new rules, if you will, around the go forward is a really, really important part of any deal, right? And so that's one part. Then obviously there's the whole business side, and how do you get a business ready? How do you financially make the story? How do you tell the story? How do you find parties? There's that whole part of it. How do you get the right numbers? How do you value it? How do you negotiate it? I mean, that's all real stuff too. And I think that part's really fun. I love that part, actually. That's part of the work I'm doing now with Acto, the company that bought my companies. I'm helping them think through that part of their business, right? And supporting them in that, because I like the deal part and I like the relationship part. And it's fun for me to be able to both be an entrepreneur and CEO in my next company and still play a role in helping, the next generation of entrepreneurs, kind of my own legacy, if you will, in a respectful, humble way, build their legacy, right? And build their dream and be a part of that. So it's a win-win-win. And that's part of the opportunity that was with that particular group. But I think it differs for everybody. And this is an example where, I'm happy to talk, and this might even be something I explore for a business in the future.
There's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down there. But you know what? You brought up a great point, and I want everybody to challenge yourself. to think about this, right? I forget I was talking to you about this when it was like, what is it do you want? Well, I want Tony Robbins said, well, I want more money. Well, here goes $10. Now you got more money. What's next? Right? Or some people say, what's more money? $100 million. What are you going to do with $100 million? I don't really know what I'm going to do with $100 million. Right? So it's so important, like when he talks about this, to get clear with truly what you really want. Like, what do you really want out of this business when you grow it? And because there's no, I shared this. I follow this pastor, and his name's Gregory Ford. He's out of Ohio, and he made this big sermon about somebody climbing this mountain, that when he finally got to the top of the mountain, he realized that he didn't want to be on this mountain, right? Because so many people, like, everything takes your thoughts away from you, which is why meditation is so important, to just be in your own thoughts. And sometimes in meditation, guys, you will find what you truly want. An idea will hit because you spend time in your own mind, which most people do not do, right? So what is it that you truly want, right? And Derek, do you have any tips on, like, maybe through your journey, like what helped you decide, like, what helped you decide what you truly wanted out of life?
So to answer your question simply, it's still emerging, right? It changes over time, right? I think so I'll give one very specific example. About 5 years ago, I was at a community group similar to this in person. I was in the Bay Area with a bunch of other CEOs, and we were all sitting around the question, which is, what do you want? What do you accomplish? What's the one thing you're going to accomplish and manifest this year? And it was interesting because I had this very financial goal that I wanted to go for, that I wanted to share, but I literally kept hearing, it's the wrong answer. You're supposed to be a dad. You keep putting this off. You're not acknowledging this. And it was literally just confronting me. And so I shared with the group that I had this conflict in me, that I wanted to go after this financial goal, but I was being, for lack of a better term, being asked to be a father, and I kind of was pushing that off to later. And I got feedback in the group that, like, they were like, yeah, that feels real. As we did some examination together, that was the clear answer, right? It was like, that feels really good to us if you were to do that. And it was interesting to have perspective of the group share with me what I was experiencing into my own process of examination. And it became clear. I came back home from that trip, and I said to Erin, my wife, I said, all right, let's do it. Let's become parents for real. Because we had been, like, flirting with it for about a year, and I was not all in on that. I was not committed. I didn't make a decision, and I didn't commit to the outcome. So I came back and I said, I'm all in. Let's do it. And then, like, literally 2 months later, we were pregnant. I mean, it was like that level of just, it happened. And then now we have 3 children, and they're beautiful and they're amazing, and they've been enriching factors in building a business. Right. So that's just one example. But now, to that same point, it's like, and the pandemic has been amazing at helping to examine that. Right. For me, for 10 years, I spent a ton of time on the plane. I was doing $100,000 miles a year on the road prior to having children. And now I've been home. I've been on 5 planes in the last 2 years. Right. I mean, I've been home every day and every night with my family and I've still been getting as much done in my business through Zoom and everything else. And I've been home, able to, be there for the milestones, read them at night, take them to school in the morning. And for me, that's been really important. So now, figuring out the balance of my family life with my business life and what those goals are, that's become a huge priority for me. And it's something I continue to struggle with because, as you all know, building a business is incredibly demanding of your time, attention, energy, as are a family, right? As are having a healthy relationship, as are raising stable, well-adjusted children. So I'm still in this process just as well as all of you, right? So that's just for me. Yeah.
Love it, man. So listen, Derek has a hard stop at 1 o'clock. So listen, I just want to, unbelievable. As I expected, you're a high performer and you always over deliver, and just thank you, man. We got a lot of notes, guys. Derek's going to sign off, but we still got a half hour to where we can all chat and kind of dig into what we just digest, what we just learned, and kind of decide what we're going to put into action, heading after this. So Derek, thank you so much. Oh, a book recommendation for manifestation. Somebody just mentioned that. You have a book recommendation?
For manifestation, I don't know that I have a book for that. But I will say a book I always recommend is Abundance. That's a book that I read back to the technology piece for people that are really not thinking, like, but just changing the way they want to look at things. Also, the kind of a next version of that is The Future is Faster Than You Think, both by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. Recommend them. I could get back to you on some recommendations of things that I've read for manifestation, but that's a book to recommend. The other thing I would say, if anyone wants to connect, to learn more, I'm on all the different social media happy to share more and learn more about your companies and your businesses and support you. So hopefully we'll be back in the future. Devin, again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to all of you for listening. I truly am appreciative of the time and opportunity, and wishing all of you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all the best for 2022.
Thank you so much, Derek. You're the man, brother. We will
Thank
share
you all.
this stuff, and I'll share it all with them.
Thanks, everyone.
So, dude, I mean, the list goes on with what he just went over. But was there any, and I want people listen, you got to, what was there anything that stuck out to you based off of what he was saying? Do you guys have any aha moments that you wanted to elaborate on or kind of share that you want to take in probably, to 2022 with you? Let's just say we got the holiday weeks coming up. Is there anything you took from that you're like, you know what, I want to be focused on this in 2022? Anybody want to raise their hand or you can jump out, kind of share some aha moments here? Matt April.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that he said that really stuck the most was the conscious capitalism. Like, I've been so focused my entire life of trying to provide now for my family, and so focused on the capitalistic idea of trying to just make money, find ways to make money. But the conscious capitalism of thinking about how I can get everyone to win, that just really was oh yes, that's how I've been trying to think, but haven't been able to shift and put it into words. That was awesome. So that was a big takeaway of all the things he said, which were great.
No, love that, man. And, hey, so there's something sticks out different to everybody. So I love that, and that's important for everybody to hear. One thing that he said to me, which really stuck out, was abundance. Abundance to your competitors. Meaning, it talk about a paradigm shift. Everybody, even in this, is there, how many people, hey, I want to learn about the harvest. Is there somebody here that does the same business as me? Right? It's they don't have that abundance mindset, right? But what can you do as a performance coach? How could I help them switch their mindset to that? Well, hey, how about this? How about you become so good to where it levels up all your competition to where now they have to keep up with you? And by the way, we all know that if you're good people, you're going to find ways to collaborate with each other too. It's happening within this community too. But man, the mindset shift of that, because sometimes we all get in our own heads about, well, man, so-and-so's doing all this or so-and-so's doing this. We're always focused on other people, and it kind of takes our energy away and kind of doesn't help us perform at a high level. And that's a small brain mindset hack to where, hey, you know what? I want to raise my performance at a high level and not be concerned about what my competition is doing. But, hey, you know what? Me becoming a better version, me becoming a bigger company, makes everybody thrive. And you just want to keep your mind out of that negative, trying to hurt people and whatever that stuff is. And if you can find a way to trick your mind into motivating yourself in a positive way to continue to grow, and by the way, that helps other people as you do it, that's going to fire you up to more to get out there and do what you got to do. Jeff Harris.
What's up, Devin? That guy, awesome, by the way, great speaker. I mean, at this point, we don't expect anything less than that. So, well done. On that note, I've been doing a lot of learning around, the laws of attraction, and that goes right into what we're talking about here, right? With your competitors and with the people that you're out in the marketplace. And if you're going to be wishing bad or not figuring out ways to collaborate, not figuring out ways to get better and to improve, then the things that you're not doing are going to come back to you, right? So put out there the good stuff, put out there the collaboration, put out there the learn from each other, to build each other, compete with each other to get better and deliver something better for the world. And that's what's going to come back to you when you do so. He made a comment as I was getting back to the house about doing everything with love, something to that effect. And it's so funny. Yesterday on Facebook, it reminded me that I posted something at the end of last year, and it was something about I love seeing all the love and just something to that effect. And I shared it. And then he said that today. It's interesting how things work. And as I move into the new year, that's going to continue to be part of what I'm doing. So you'll see hashtag spread love in everything that I'm doing. And you've started to see that recently if you've been following anything, but just everything you're doing is done so with love for everyone. And I think that was a really big thing for me to hear from him today too.
Guys, we always highlight this, man. Everything starts with here. And most people do not take the time to be in your head. In my website, Mind, Body, and Business, the challenge is to spend 10 minutes in your mind. Right? I didn't just make up some random shit. This stuff works, and it's very easy if you actually take the time to do it. Let me get out. Let me check my emails. Let me get to the office. Let me deal with everybody else's bullshit. Let me deal with everybody else's complaints. And you wonder why you're not where you want to be, right? And don't say, well, this is where, like, no, where you truly want it to be. If the answer wasn't no, and you can wave a magic wand, where would your, well, guess what? When I asked you to do that, you probably spent that 1 minute or 2 minutes that I told you to go into your dreams, right? Most of you probably haven't had that opportunity in years, right? To actually go in and dream about because you don't take the time to do it. And there's every guest speaker, guys, who I put on here, and it's just, Jeff, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you noticed that, man, because sometimes I feel like we bring in so many, like, fucking business aliens. Like, I don't even like to call them real people. These fucking people are aliens. Like, the shit that they do, it's like we almost take it for granted. And Derek is a unbelievable entrepreneurial powerhouse. And you can see all the stuff that he said to us literally in 30 minutes. Yeah, he just couldn't stop. He was just, dropping gems. But it's a common pattern that all these guest speakers that I have always talk about spending time in their mind, their spiritual well-being, their manifestation, their meditation. Everybody skips this stuff. Everybody skips this stuff, right? And it's just crazy that, man, like I told people and we talked about this, there's an app called Headspace. And what I started doing when I was in my meditation was because there's opportunities in that meditation app that say, let your mind run wild, because you're learning how to control your mind. When that time comes where it says, let my mind run wild, what do? I go into visualization, right? And that's what I do. I start visualizing. If the answer wasn't no, and I just went into my dreams, what would my life look like? What would my health look like? What would my lifestyle look like? What would my companies look like? What would my impact in the world look like? What magazines would I be on? How many people would I have in this community? Like everything. I started, I'm on the railing of my shore house when I'm looking out into the ocean, like whatever it is that I wanted. Like, and it's not a coincidence that a lot of stuff that I've thought about years back, it's all come true. Way quicker than I've ever imagined. Now I'm not stopping dreaming. I'm going to keep. Now it's like, what are my next dreams that I'm trying to manifest? And there's a lot of seeds planted right now that could make them come true sooner than I expected. Right? So, guys, I challenge you, and I said this in the Deep Roots call yesterday. Go to the website. Use that habit tracker. Right? There's 3 things that I tell you to do every single day. So if I can have a peace of mind that I'm helping you guys grow outside of these calls. Right? When I see you racking up them points, Nick, who has his hand raised, which I'm going to go to next, and then I saw Jason had his hand raised too. But that tells me that you guys are about what you say you're about, right? If you do 10 minutes to your mind, 30 minutes active exercise, right? Active activity, walking, jogging, riding a bike, going doing a workout, and then you make a commitment to a Power 5 to your business. Now that's family and work, right? If you guys truly do that every day, you'll have the best month you ever had in your life. Right? That's just a fact. Right? Now, that is alignment with 75 hard. The only problem with 75 hard is you can't do that the rest of your life. Right? Most people can't. And then what happens is they're like, well, if I'm not doing 75 hard, what the fuck else should I do? Let me just be non-disciplined. You know what I mean? It's like, no, do that, because that's something you can turn into a lifestyle forever. And then when you're trying to challenge yourself to really ramp it up, hop into 75 hard. But I challenge you guys to use that, and I'll see who's doing it. And at the end of the week, whoever has the most points, I'll send out a gift card. I'll send you a prize. But I'm telling you guys, this will work for you. But that 10 minutes in your mind, guys, is a game. Just that is a game changer. And you may visualize something that you never thought about for your business. Right? Nick, let's go to you, brother.
Dev, what's up, brother?
Where's he at? Uh-oh, where'd he go? Is he still
He accidentally signed off as he was talking.
All right, well, we'll go right back to him. Jason, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. What's up, guys?
Introduce yourself. I need Jason. Welcome. He's a new member here.
What's going on, guys?
I give Jason. I know you dropped your intro video, so
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was definitely awesome. I mean, one thing that, like, towards the end, what he was saying is I follow Pastor Craig Grishel, and he's like big on like winning the war in your mind and all that kind of stuff. And what your point was great. But yeah, just being intentional about, like, we all go out and just like hustle, work, but just being intentional about what we're actually doing it for. Like you said, climbing the mountain and then getting to the top and being like, wait, what am I even here for? What am I doing this for? You know what I mean? So not only working hard, but like being intentional about like scheduling and making sure our end goals, like everybody wants to work hard so they get money and get this, get that. But like, what's our goals with our money, and like, what are we planning on using it for, and aligning it, like be more intentional about what our growth is and what our money is going to be used for, so that we know what we're actually doing and we can schedule for it and be more intentional about it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So
Make it real, man. It's like, listen, sometimes that shit probably ain't coming to you yet because you don't know what you're going to do with it.
yeah.
Right. If
Yeah.
we're trying to really go next level, maybe God's like, listen, man, I know you said you want this or not, but one, you don't even have the habits or the values right now to where I can trust that you can do what I want you to do with it yet.
Yeah.
Like, look at your activities right now. If I blessed you with this money now, you'd be a train wreck. Like your habits right now, you don't even know what you do with it. You'd probably go out and do something stupid with it. So I can't trust that I'm going to bless you with this financial blessing right now. Like, guys, it gets this deep. I want to let you know that. So start developing that plan. That's why people can say vision boards are cheesy. I got it on the back of my phone. But like, identify if you did get that, what would you do? How would you help people? What would your life look like? Right. So Nick, sorry you got booted off, brother. Let's get into what you had. Great stuff.
All good. I just want to say thank you again, man, for bringing that guy on. That dude's an absolute monster. And one thing that really stood out to me, man, was just he mentioned something about momentum. And I keep talking about it a lot on my social media. And the thing about momentum is I think it collides with the law of attraction. You see, the more I act on what I want and the more I surround myself by the things I want to obtain, both physically, spiritually, and mentally, it just starts to attract. And when he said he's booked out a month out, that just goes to show you this man is in control of his life, his schedule, and he's ultimately manifesting his destiny. And then the same thing applies to everything we do in business, life, personal. When I joined the Harvest, I was struggling with my family balance. When Devin started talking about non-negotiable days, light bulb went off. I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong? So like through my process, through my own transformation, I actually made some significant changes and fixed my family life while making my business life even better and taking more time out of my day and being more productive with the time I do have, which I think is very hard with twins. But, all in all, man, that was a lot of power. And I think a lot has to do with the mindset. Your mind is your greatest weapon. If you control it and you do what you need to do with it, the end result is going to be limitless.
Yeah, good stuff, man. By the way, congrats on you're crushing it, dude. I see your physical transformation. I love those beautiful pictures of your family too, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Brother, keep it up, man.
Appreciate it.
Who else before I call random people? We got about 15 minutes left. And by the way, he did mention a great point too, which is what I harp on you guys all the time about. Everything that he said was about other people, right? So whether it's your family, whether it's your employees, whether it's your clients, everything was about loving other people, right? And taking what you know and delivering that to other people, which is why I tell you guys, leaders who have people following you or you have employees, guys, this call isn't just about you. This call is taking what you're learning from here and pouring into other people and helping them with it. Because two things are going to happen. One, you're going to get instant gratification. You're going to get a dose of an endorphin that's going to make you happier, which will then make you more productive throughout your day. But two, we all know what happens when you are, just delivering value to other people and helping other people. Eventually, they're going to want to help you. So we all know that could turn into new business, turn into new introductions, and turn into you just building your influence in the community. So if you just wake up every day, hey, who can I help? Who can I share what I've learned from this call? I mean, dude, you guys can do a series to where every time you have a harvest call, you then do a video and post a video onto your social network the next day talking about what you learned and share that with other people. And literally that could be a business development strategy right there. I'm just telling you guys, it gets that easy, right? So don't just hold this stuff in. Obviously, we want you guys to implement it and use this to change your life. But remember, you take this and then coach other individuals. You put your hand out and help other people up, right, as you continue to do this. So I want to make sure that you guys understand the opportunity that you get to share the knowledge that you're learning from here and how it can help you personally and in your business, because it can and it will. And it's been happening to a lot of people in the harvest who's literally, closed a lot of new business because they were just becoming an influence because they weren't holding in the stuff that they learned here. And they weren't like keeping it a secret that they're a part of something that helps them. They're sharing their knowledge with other people and spreading the love, which is what Jeff said. And guess what happens when you spread love? You get love, right? But if you're a secret, you're keeping all this stuff to yourself, you're not visible, all this stuff. Well, listen, you're just going to keep it all bottled up. You know, so make sure that to deploy this out to other people, guys, that is a major superpower, and you can really help change lives. And if you change lives, your life will change, right? How do I make it? I love this line. How do I make $1 billion? Help 1 billion people, right? That's the bottom line. Same thing in your business. How do I make this? How do I make that? Well, how many people are you having conversation with that you want to help, right? How many messages are you putting out? How many people are seeing your message about how you can help them every single day? I guarantee you, a lot of you, if I audit your social media, probably a lot of you are non-existent right now. If I audit the last 5 days on your Facebook, if I followed this person the last 5 days, would I know what that person does and how their service can help me? Right? Think about that, right? If I was on their email list, do I know how this person can help me? Do I even see this person? Right? Look at my cell phone. Hey, you know, it gets that easy, guys, right? You got to be seen. How do you be seen? Well, you deliver content that can help people. Well, where do I find that? You got it in the harvest every single day. People are posting stuff that can help you. And then just execute the stuff that we're talking about, because all of you guys in here are, you know, you guys have stuff to share with other people. And the easy part is you guys are all good at what you do in business. The next level stuff is just share what you learn with this too. And then you can, and that's the secret sauce. It's not just hitting them with your business stuff. The right hook, the knockout punches to inspire people and influence them. Share your journey, document your journey, right? This is all stuff that gets people's attention on you, which will then grow your business. Who else? Anybody else have anything? If not, then I will sign off. Just a quick note, guys. Saturday from 2 to 6, please keep your attention in the Harvest group, the Facebook group at the Harbaugh Village. Tim is hosting an event. If you guys want to donate some toys, stuff like that, you know, it's a great time to go out there and volunteer and donate toys. And I would ask every one of you, before the new year, we're going to start transitioning everybody to the website community. So please make sure you have your logins created on my website. It's very easy. You just go to DevinDiNofa.com, join my online community, high performance community. That's it. And I'll add you guys all to the Harvest community on the back end there. So please make sure you do that. And just like any other social network, build out your profile, because eventually there's going to be thousands of people in there. And I want you guys connecting with people on my platform too, because you can drum up a lot of business there. Outside of that, guys, listen, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Post in the community. Connect with people. Ask your questions. Get your problem solved and implement, guys. Implement this stuff. And most importantly, like I said, share this call. Share Derek. Share the community with other people, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Devo. See everybody.